call everybody welcome that came up and want to listen to God's word. And we just sang, trust and obey. That's the only way we could be happy in Jesus. Trust and obey. And you know what? I had one word that I want to talk about. That was trust. Trust and obey. And we sang. And that's the answer for be happy in Jesus. And I'll have all we need. So then I just have to learn to trust. And when I prepare this message, I think I trust God that He will lead me through this message. I want to trust Him. Because that's something that we would like to have. Trust. That will lead us through. And when I think on this word trust, to me, it's before faith. It's kind of comes before faith, or trust helps to build your faith. It's a little different, trust and faith. Completely trust, and I think sometimes if we completely trust, that means faith will grow. The faith will increase. And trust is almost the same as hope. So trust and hope are very close together, almost the same, but still a little different. Just imagine if you were sick, really sick, and your friend comes and visits you. And now that friend has 3 good sentences he want to tell you. Good. 3 good sentences. So, if that friend will say to you, I hope you will soon be better. Wow, that's good. I hope you will soon feel better. Or he would say, I believe you will soon be better. Or, I trust you will soon feel better. Which sentence would comfort you the most? They're all good. I hope, yeah, then. I believe, yeah. But if he says, I trust, to me that was the deepest one. I trust, that means he trusts completely. And he has experience, so he trusts God will heal you pretty soon. Psalms 118, verse 8 to 9. It says, it is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. And then verse 9, it is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in princes. Again, it's better to trust in the Lord. And that's what we want to do. But do we only trust in the Lord? Or do we trust in people too? We should trust the people too. It's so much better, so much easier if we could trust the people. But, as I said, God is number one. God we could trust 100%. People we could trust sometime 100%, sometime depend on what he did. That trust could go a little bit like this. But it's good if that stays up. It's better for us and better for that person. Like I said, God is number one. Trust him. And I said, then, after we trust God completely, it's good if we could trust the princesses or the government or the ministers or the police or the army or the kings and so on. It's so much better if we could trust them. And I think sometime we should try to trust them, give them trust. And it's so much easier and better for us if we could do that. So, to trust God, that's only one sided. Trust God is just one side. Why? Because trust goes down if somebody makes a mistake. If somebody would give me an egg and I'm shaking so much and it drops to the ground and breaks, and he gave me another one, and again, my hand is shaking so much it drops, then he won't trust me anymore. Not if that giving me an egg in my hand and it's just shaking so much. So that's one side. But yeah, but God, you never could prove God wrong. So we could trust him, and we should trust him 100%. But trust man, that has two sides. Like you sometimes trust them 100%, you probably would say 100%, depend in which directions. But then you make a mistake, another mistake, then you finally make this decision. In this area, I don't trust that person. I have experienced such and such things, and I don't trust them. Got too many marks. So let's go to Acts 9. Here we have Saul, and I think he believed that he trusted God, and he trusted the high priest, and he was working for God. And he was working hard. But he made so many mistakes, and his work was so wrong. All the Christians didn't trust him. They were afraid of him. So something was wrong. He made so many mistakes. But now, if you go up to verse 6, that's where Saul changed. His life changed completely. And he asked, Lord, what do you want me to do? He saw he was on a wrong track, and he just wanted to know, what should I do now? Okay, good. So now he changed. He was a new man, turned around, serving Christ. So did the Christian trust him right away? No. Well, he was a new man. He was born again. Why didn't the Christian trust him right away? Because the history, what they heard of him, so they couldn't trust him. So now we go down to verse 9 to 19. So here is this Ananias, and he came into the test. He had a vision. The Lord said in a vision, Ananias, and he said, here I am. Okay. God wanted to use him. And this was a test, because the answer that he got from this vision was that he should go to Saul, because this guy was praying. And then he said, no, I cannot trust this guy. I heard so many bad stories of him, and you know what? Do you know what he really did and what he does? He didn't trust him. But the voice that came to him just encouraged him, go. And I would say, give him some trust. Give him another chance. And I think that's what we sometimes have to do too. If our trust is a little low, give that person a little bit more trust and see if that trust could grow. And that's what he did. So he finally believed, and as we saying, trust and obeyed. He trusts that this voice was from God, and he should go, and he did, and he trusted Saul, that this was a different person now, different than he had heard from him. And then verse 20, this is what Paul did. Immediately he preached Christ, that he was the Son of God. So he had changed. Okay, now it was days already, weeks. Did all the people believe that he had changed? Did they trust Paul? No, they didn't. Even though he started to preach and show a different way of living. It took time that he could trust him again, or that he could trust him. He had to prove himself. And again, we could help that this trust could be built up faster. It needed. Let's read verse 26. And when Saul had come to Jerusalem, he tried to join the disciples, but they were all afraid of him and did not believe that he was a disciple. So there was not trust. They didn't trust him, even though he came, and probably some of them heard that he's preaching now, but probably a lot of them felt like this is just another trick that he was trying. Start to preach, and then he will find exactly where all those Christians were, and he would catch them. Yeah, probably heard, yeah, he preached already. But can we trust this guy? They didn't. Even the disciples in Jerusalem, they couldn't trust Paul. But here, verse 27, but Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles. This is what I like. And we need a lot more Barnabas. He took him, helped to build up trust. And he declared to them how he had seen the Lord on the road, and that he had spoken to him, and how he had preached boldly to Damascus in the name of Jesus. So he was the bridge to build up the trust, that the trust could be built up between him and the disciples, between him and the Christians in Jerusalem, because the Christians in Jerusalem knew that he was a bad guy. We cannot trust this guy. But it was very important to bring up that trust. So now, where is our trust level each other, to one another? If we test this a little, where is their trust level? And I'm going to give you a little test. Do you trust that and that brother, or that and that sister, or that and that teacher, or that and that minister? If the answer is no, it might be no in some cases. I just cannot trust him or her. I just can't do that. Is there something that you could do that trust could come back? Or it's just the other person? No. From my side, if I say I don't trust that brother, I don't trust that sister, I don't trust that minister, I don't trust that teacher. What I heard from that teacher, I don't trust that teacher anymore. I could do something. I could try help build bridge and see if that trust could come up. My question is sometimes, do I want to have this trust to that person? Or sometimes we feel kind of good if I could say I don't trust. It's not a good saying, but sometimes Satan, the liar, tells us, don't mind. If you don't trust him, tell him you don't trust him, and you could punish him a little bit. We sometimes feel like punish people. And that's a punishment. If I say, okay, I don't trust you, that's the way I could punish you. That's not a good feeling. If you hear it from me and I say, I don't trust you. The question is, do I want to trust you? If I want, let's build a bridge that we could cross again. So now I give you a little test. So now if I would ask, do you trust me? Well, I guess some would say yes. And some would ask, in what ways? And that's right. That are the right answers. But now I make an example. So now, if I would say, or ask, do you want to ride with me to Halifax? Do you trust me that I'm a good enough driver that you would be riding with me to Halifax? I think a lot of you would. I trust you. I think a lot of you trust me that I'm not the best driver, but at least as good that you could trust me to go along with me. I have that hope. I have that trust. Yes, you trust me as far as that you would go along if I offer you a ride. Okay, now a 10-year-old hears this too. And now he offers, hey, you want to ride with me on the car to Halifax? Oh, a 10-year? Well, I probably would see if I could get a little more trust. I would ask the parents, did this guy ever drove on the fields? And if they say, yes, he's a good driver. He never hit apple tree or anything. Okay, well, all right. I might consider, okay, if I could sit close to this young driver, I would trust him. In case I need to grab this steering wheel, I'll do. But I'll trust him as long as I can. And if I have to grab the steering wheel, I'll grab the steering wheel. Maybe somebody would say, no, I don't trust that 10-year-old one. I won't take a ride. I rather would go on a field than on a big road. Small roads, maybe I'll give him the trust. Now I turn this a little different. So now I offer you a ride to Halifax. And most of you agreed. Now I'm going to tell you, okay, you know what? I'll go from here to Greenwood Airport. Okay. And my plan is take a plane from Greenwood Airport and fly you to Halifax Airport. Do you trust me? You all will fly with me together? I think most of you would say, nope. Probably some of you would say, you still trust me. I will never do this unless I have the experience. So as far as that, probably a lot of you will trust. But if I just go ahead and say, all right, here's the plane. And I'll take this plane and we'll fly to Halifax. I think only the small children probably will step on that plane. They have complete trust. They trust if that big guy talks about flying, he must have the experience. Otherwise, he wouldn't. So I think only small ones would probably, unless the parents would say, no, 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 no. But if they had no chance, they'd probably say, yeah. How could this change? You don't know. Maybe I took all the training this winter. When I was not around, that's when I spent my time flying in Greenwood. So now, if I offer you the ride and nobody wants to sit in the plane, and I could show up, oh, here my plane license, then probably a lot of you would say, oh, no, but maybe these are false. Because I never heard that you were training and now you show up your plane license. I don't trust them completely. Okay. Then if I gave you phone numbers, you could call that instructor, you could call that instructor. And you talk to that instructor and you say, yeah, he's a good pilot. He did really good in the training. I would trust him completely. Then some of you will start thinking, oh, okay, I didn't know. Maybe I should get into plane. Yeah, because if those words from the instructors and the signatures on this pilot license, oh, okay, I trust you too. First, I didn't. Or how many of you ever get a ride on a plane? Raise your hand. A lot. Okay. Do you go on a plane before you know the pilot? How many of you first going to talk to the pilot for a while and ask for her pilot license? Ask if he has lots of experience or so on. How many of you did it? Raise your hand. Just one small boy did it. Raise his hand. It was about a year or two. Probably did raise his hand for something else. But so how? Why not? Here's the test. How come you trust that pilot if you don't know him? You never heard him. You even don't know his name. You trust that pilot. Give him the trust without knowing him. He will tell the answer. Why do you trust him? How you know that? You believe it, right? You have no proof. You trust the government. You trust a lot of people that they would have taught this guy. You trust. You have to trust Canada, or you have to trust a lot of people. And you give them the trust. And that's why you give this pilot completely trust that he will carry you through. And I know one pilot that will carry you completely through. That's our Father in heaven. But we can learn of this. The trust, figure out that we trust this person and this person and this person and this person. That's why we could trust this one too. Without checking everything out before I could trust him. Just grant him the trust. And I think that's sometimes our problem. For example, this brother did so and so much things wrong to me. I want him to prove it for, if he did something wrong to me in a week or two, I like him to prove it for a month or a year before I'm going to trust him. I just like to hold my little down. Why not give him the trust? I trust you. So let's go over to David. David was anointed by Samuel, anointed as he would be the king of Israel. As a young boy, he was anointed to be the king. And he was, I don't know how old he was. And still, he was working for his father. An anointed king, but still had a low class of job, take care of the sheep. The older brothers had a higher position, whatever. They didn't need to do this. Even if there was war, they could go to war already. But he had to stay home and take care of the sheep. So, and at these fields, that's where God gave him the trainings, and that's where he got the hope and the trust. That's where he built up his trust to his father. He didn't need to go somewhere to high school, university, and had a diploma that now he was a trained soldier or a trained king and showed up. Oh, okay, here. I have all my documentation. I have been to university for so and so many years. Here I have it. In the field, that's where he got his trust. He learned to trust his father, and that was God. And he trusted God completely. So now the time came that his father wanted him to visit his sons or his brothers, and they were at war. Okay, David did. He walked up, and as soon as he came to the place, he saw, hey, here's a big problem. This problem needs to solve. This big giant, and the way he was speaking, and when he saw how the Israelites all were so afraid and didn't trust what was going to happen, he said, hey, we need some help here. We need to fix this problem here. And he trusted God, that God would help him with this. He had 100% trust in God. Not in man, but in God. And now the king heard it, and his brothers heard it, and they said, oh no, you small guy, we don't trust you. You don't know what you're talking. We cannot give you this trust. He had to show up his license, right? How did he show up his pilot license? Well, he just said what he had done. He had killed lions, he had killed bears, and he trusts God completely. God helped him through all this, and God will help him to kill this giant. And when he brought this up to the king, he kind of gave him the trust. Okay, if this is Saul, then Saul figured, all right, I grant you this trust that you could go. And it worked. And it helped. Again, he had his trust in God. And that's what we all need. Daniel. I like Daniel's story. He trusted God completely. When the king wanted to throw him in the lion's den, he didn't know. He didn't know if God would spare him, but he trusted God. God would do what was best for him. He didn't have enough faith that he could say right away to the king, God will spare me. Don't mind if you throw me in those lions pit. God will spare me. I have the faith. No lion will hurt me. But he trusted. And even the king, he saw this trust in Daniel, that he had a trust, or the faith, whatever we call it, the hope, that the next morning he called Daniel. Did your father spare you? Why would he call if the lions had killed him a day ago already? And he was in the lions' bellies already. Why would he make that effort to call? Daniel, did the Lord spare you? Because he saw the trust that Daniel had. Daniel trusts God and figure God will take care of me. And that's a trust you and me want to have. And the same with these three guys that the king ordered to put in the furnace, fiery hot furnace. And because they were not serving the idol, this big idol what the king made, the king got angry and made a fire 7 times hotter, that even the ones that throw these 3 people in got killed from the fire. These 3 men trusted God. God will take care of us. They said, we don't know. We don't know if God will spare us from this fire, but we trust. God will take care. And he did. It's kind of more than faith, just trust. And when the king saw this, he was deeply touched. When he saw what faith or what trust these 3 men had. And they turned this law around. So now go back to the first part of the Bible. Adam and Eve, did they trust God completely in the paradise? Yes, they did. They trust God completely. They had everything they needed. God was everything to them. They had no need. But when the serpent came and tried to steal some of this trust, and it did, they steal away some of this trust. Brothers and sisters, the same Satan we have today, and he'll like to steal little trust. Trust that you have in God, trust you have in your brothers and sisters. He'd like to steal that. And if he could do that, he's a winner from his side. Watch for that. And he's hard of it. Just tries again and again. If he could turn people down. Trust and obey if you want to be happy in Jesus. If you want to be happy in Nova Scotia, in the church, in Bethlehem Church, or wherever. It's so much easier. Less stress, less fear if you could live in trust. I mean, a little experience last year. There's a widow close to Canning. She lost her husband, and she has a big house with a lot of shrubs and so on, a lot of trees. And she calls us and wanted us to take care because her husband was gone, and she had a lot of shrubs and so on. And when I came to that place, and I saw a big tree in front of the house, and to me it looked like that needed a nice prune and nice trim. And I told her that, and then she said, "Oh, do you know? Could you do that?" And I said, "Yes, I could do that." But I said it would look a little naked, I said to her at the beginning. And she kind of, And she went away, and I trimmed it. And when she came back, she said a little, but okay. I felt like she didn't trust me completely. But I did it. And it pruned a lot of her trees and shrubs and so on. And now this year, we came back again. And she went away. And I started to prune some of the shrubs, and I decided some of the shrubs needed to cut way back. And I said, it was a little doubt if I did the right thing. She said, no. I trust you 100%. That tree looks so nice. I could do whatever I decide on the plans. She trusts me 100%. She could go away. While everything was good, I could trim every shrub, whatever, the way I think it should be trimmed. And it's so much easier if we could have that trust that if you go somewhere and they say, I trust you 100%, do whatever you think is good. Gives you a little bit more responsibilities, but it's so much easier. And that's the same in the church. If we could trust each other. Well, look like we should close. I also taught them on Luke 24, exactly what he had on the Sunday school. These disciples, they said in verse 21, we had trust that this Jesus would redeem the Israelites. But what happened, they didn't understand his teachings. And what had happened, their trusts were going downhill. And they had killed him. And now the woman said he was risen up, but their hope was kind of, the trust was down. But the good part in verse 31, when Jesus opened the eyes, all this trust and hope came back. They were back on track. So let's pray for a close. Our Heavenly Father, thank you that we could trust you. You never prove you wrong. With that part, we could trust you fully in everything, that you will take care of us. And I pray that we could grow in this trust and belief and hope. We could build bridges where we need to build bridges, that we could trust each other, that we could be happy in you. This